Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast where today we're going to be ranking every Premier League club's best Wonderkid from this season. We're going to be ranking them into 5 categories, starting off with elite, then great, then breakthrough, okay, and finally needs more games. And we're going to be doing this in alphabetical order, timestamps below in the video description. And we're starting off with Arsenal. Toby, why did we decide to go for Miles Lewis-Skelly ahead of someone like Ethan Nwaneri?
Yeah, I think with Miles Lewis-Skelly is that it feels like he has cemented himself as a starter in this Arsenal side now, with his absolute rise this season as to be our strongest left back. I think it's fair to say, even with the likes of Calafiori or Timber potentially going over there if White comes in. Whereas I think with Nwaneri, he has had more sort of cameos, only really starting in club competitions or in league games where we are resting players. And don't get me wrong, Nwaneri is an absolutely superb talent and could easily be in this list. But yeah, sticking it one to club with Lewis-Skelly, as he has sort of become a regular starter for Arsenal now this season.
Yeah, 35 appearances in all competitions and cemented that left-back role ahead of someone like Ricardo Calafiori, who has had a couple of injury issues this season. I agree that I think I should be him, not only just for Arsenal, but he's also made his debut for England at 18 years of age, and he's also the youngest ever scorer for England on their debut. And yes, he's had a couple of rough patches, I think, this season. He got that red card decision against Wolves away, which did get overturned after it got appealed by Arsenal. He had the red card against West Ham at home, which I think that was definitely a red card decision. So he hasn't been perfect throughout the whole season, but I think he has very much deserved to be ahead of someone like Ethan Nwaneri, because I just think he's amazing to be someone of his age and to put in the performances, especially in the Champions League, where he's looking like one of Arsenal's best players. That takes a lot of doing, and I think in an age where Wonderkids just seem to be sprouting out left, right and centre, sometimes we get how young these players are and how immature they actually are in terms of life experience. So to be doing what they're doing is absolutely phenomenal. I know where I want Miles Lewis-Skelly in my tier list. Where have you got him first, Toby?
As much as I wanted to put him into elite, because I genuinely think, like you said, over the last 10 sort of games or so, he has been one of our best players alongside Declan Rice. He's just been so good, and he fits that sort of inverted left-back role amazingly, given that he was playing in centre mid sort of for the Arsenal youth sides. I have gone for great, so just in that second tier, I think, like you said, maybe a few of those red cards and I think his defensive game could still do a little bit of work. But yeah, still just an amazing season for him and an amazing player.
See, that's funny because I actually do have him in an elite, and I was surprised actually hearing that you don't have him in elite either, because I think the Champions League performances do really have to count for a lot. I mean, these are some of the best players in world football that he's looking comfortable in against. And now maybe there's something to do with the way he plays football, his style, the expressions on his face. He doesn't really look too bothered whatsoever. But I think he's putting in some fantastic performances. And if Arsenal were to go out and sign a left back this summer, I would be quite surprised, because I think you could be blocking the pathway for Miles Lewis-Skelly, who I think also need to be investing in heavily going forward. And I can't believe I'm the one saying it, but I think I'll be pushing for him to maybe be an elite.
Yeah, I did have him in elite to start with, and I did a bit of shuffling around, and I saw some of the players maybe that he was above in my list on great, which obviously we'll be getting into, and I thought, is that fair? But because I did have him in there initially, and as a massive Arsenal fan, I'm not going to complain if we put him into elite. So yeah, more than happy to fold on this one, even though it's for my club.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm the one trying to convince you to put him in elite. It makes me interesting to see what's going on with the rest of your list, but okay. Let's put him in elite for now. We can always change things right at the end if we do feel like maybe we've been over generous or over harsh on particular players. Let's move on to Aston Villa, and that their Wonderkid is Andrés García, signed for £7 million approximately in January from Levante in Spain's second division. Made a total of 10 appearances so far this season, 7 in the league, 3 in the FA Cup, totaling 506 minutes. What have you made of him, Toby? Have you been impressed with him so far?
Yeah, he looks like a very solid player. I think he's somebody who, he was a starter obviously at Levante. He was always in that team. I think he played over 20 games before he was signed in January. So one of the first names on the team sheet there in La Liga 2. Since he's come in, yeah, he's sort of been in and out of the squad. It's difficult to tell when he's going to be playing. It seems like Konsa and Cash are still picking up that right back role at times as well. Maybe just easing him into the side, but he looks like a good, solid player. Again, for this, maybe haven't really seen too much for him. He's only obviously played 3.5 90s in terms of minutes in the Prem this season, so not too much to go off. But I think as well, for the price they paid, it seems like a pretty good signing, I would say.
Yeah, he definitely looks promising and definitely one for the future. I wonder how long it's probably going to take him to replace someone like Matty Cash in that starting 11. I think he does have a little bit of work to be done before he can do that. I think he's going to take a little bit of time just to get used to the tempo of the Premier League and in English football. And that's something that you probably did expect considering where he's come from and the style of play that he's used to playing in the second division in Spain. I think for me, going forward, he looks promising. He looks very aggressive. He looks like he likes to get forward and he's very attacking. Defensively, I think he needs a little bit of work, but for someone of his age and being 21, new country, new league, like I said, I think that's not an issue. I do remember the goal that I think he was pretty much a 4-4-4 against Liverpool at home when he just passed the ball back to Diogo Jota. I think maybe decision making needs, a little bit more work, but again, that's young. That's something that will come with age. I think for now, I personally have him in needs more games because I don't quite think he's had maybe a breakthrough season because I'm not seeing him get ahead of the likes of Matty and Ezri Konsa, which are two phenomenal players, by the way. So it's going to take a little bit of work to do that. But I think I'll probably put him in needs more games. Do you agree or do you disagree, mate?
Yeah, I've got him in there. Just over 300 minutes in the Prem is not quite really big enough sample size to judge him off quite yet. And yeah, I think in sort of maybe next season or the season after, as he slowly integrates into that squad, he could be then potentially sort of a bit of a breakout star. But for now, yeah, need to see a little bit more of him, I think.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on then to Bournemouth. And they had a couple of Wonderkids we could have chosen from. We could have chosen between Milos Kerkez, Ilya Zabani, but in the end we decided to go for Dean Huijsen. First season in the Premier League, and for 15 million euros, what an absolute bargain that looks like for Bournemouth. What a terrible decision that was by Juventus to sell him and for sell him for so cheap. He looks absolutely phenomenal, and there's no surprise the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Real Madrid are all eyeing up, is there?
Yeah, it is no surprise at all. This guy is the real deal. This guy is going to be one of the best centre-backs in the world. Not in the far future. I genuinely think in a few years' time, he is going to be up there with one of the best centre-backs in the world. It is mental how good he is, not just for Bournemouth, who are a good side in the Prem, obviously not one of the top sides, but for how quickly he's done it, how little they signed him for. It seems like such a strange player in season so far. I mean, his stats are absolutely off the charts. He's in the top 5% for Europe against other centre-backs in terms of interceptions and clearances, top 8% for centre-backs in terms of carries, and in the top 3% in terms of centre-backs in terms of assists and expected assists. So it's not just how good he is defensively, but the way he drives that ball forward, the way he really creates things for Bournemouth, not just even creating moves at the start, but creating them at the end in terms of making chances and shot-creating actions is absolutely exceptional. And yeah, this guy, Bournemouth, I think need to, if they're going to sell him, get a lot of money for him because he is going to be absolutely crazy. He's already so good at only 20 years old. It is kind of scary thinking how good this guy could be.
Well, mate, apparently he does have that £50 million release clause. So, I mean, I don't think even Bournemouth, considering what a fantastic scouting department they have, could have anticipated the rise because he could easily be somewhere near like 70 or even 80 million. And I don't think most teams would be batting an eyelid to be paying that. I think it's just a shame that Bournemouth can only keep him for one season. That's the only downside. Because I think 29 matches, 24 starts. He's got absolutely everything. He's great on both feet. He's 6'5" or 6. You don't know exactly depending on what website you check. And is there anything that he can't do? Honestly, he's even made his debut for the Spain full first team national team. I think he's fantastic. Can we really put him in anything else other than elite?
No, this is, for me, this is the easiest placement on the list. 100% elite he's got to be.
Yeah, so Mars Lewis-Skelly and Dean Huijsen already in elite. That's a very good start. So we'll move on then to Brentford. And talk me through Yehor Yarmoliuk. Where do you have him and how have you been thinking about him this season? You've been impressed with what you've seen?
Yeah, he looks like a solid, decent player. He's got really good defensive numbers this year, which I think is something that Brentford have sort of bought him in to do, especially towards the end of games. He's played 28 matches, 12 of those being starts, so I think he's getting a lot of minutes sort of in the last 10-20 minutes of game, brought on to really shore up things when Brentford are leading maybe, and he looks solid. He's had a good bit of rotation, obviously with Jan out and Jensen and Norgard. Looks like a good player. Nothing exceptional from what I've seen of him, but I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, he does the basics really well and does the job that's needed for me.
Okay, just based on what you've said, obviously you've not told me where he's going to be in your list. I might have a slightly higher opinion of him, I think. For me, I've seen him the last 3 games. I've watched Brentford's full 90s of the games against... Oh my God, I can't even remember who they played the last 3 games. Nottingham Forest, Man United, and there was one before that as well. And I've been really, really impressed with him. I think he's someone who, at 21, we maybe expect... Well, like I said, we see so much football nowadays. We see the players from all different leagues. We probably expect 21-year-olds now to be established regular first-team players. I mean, we're recording this on Wednesday, so last night we just saw Lamine Yamal at 17 doing incredible stuff. But normally, Wonderkids do take a little bit of time to establish themselves and get themselves into the first team. And I think actually what's holding him down is when, I think as non-Brentford fans, we look at Brentford, we talk about Thomas Frank, what an amazing job he's doing with the squad that he's got, not spending enough money. Then we look at Brentford's forward line and we think about Wissa, Mbeumo, Schade, Keane Lewis-Potter. We don't really talk about the midfield because I think we've got this interpretation that the Brentford midfield is just a very solid, functional midfield. And at times it is, and at times it does have to be. But I also think Yarmoliuk has quite impressed me this season in the fact that I think he's got an absolute engine on him. He runs up and down, works tirelessly for the whole 90 minutes. I think he also does have a little bit of quality. I think I've started to see him starting to control games. For this game, I think back in December, I was really impressed with his performance in the 4-2, I think at home against Newcastle when they beat them. I've also been very impressed against United and Forest and the other team, which I cannot remember they played recently. But I actually think that what I want from a Wonderkid, if they're breaking through, and yes, that's where I've got him. I've got them in breakthrough year. Is I want him to be taking minutes away from established first-team players. And he's been doing that from Jan out a little bit. So, yeah, maybe we should focus more on the front line. But I have been really impressed by Yarmoliuk. I think next season, maybe his breakthrough. But I think it should arguably be this one just because not many people watch Brentford and maybe take notice. So maybe I'm fighting for the little guy, I don't know. But I personally have him in breakthrough.
Yeah, I have him. I did have him in the okay tier, and it did feel a little harsh. But I think the players that I did have in breakthrough have broken through a little bit more. I think Yarmoliuk is sort of getting towards that position where he is a starter in that midfield. I still don't think he's there yet, and I think when Jensen, Janat and Norgard are all fit, there'd still be question marks whether he's going into that squad. So I would have him in okay, but it would certainly be the top side of that okay. And as you said, next season is a breakthrough, or potentially even higher, possibly. But yeah, for me, I would go for okay at the moment.
Okay, that's fair enough. I can't argue with that. I just felt like I had to fight for his corner, which is fair enough. Okay, so Yarmoliuk goes into okay. That brings us on to Brighton and Hove Albion and Carlos Baleba, who definitely already has had a breakthrough season last season, I think it's fair to say. And we're all very aware of his qualities. But talk me through how you think he's performed this season.
Yeah, I think, again, he's been fantastic again this season. Another one of those sort of defensive midfielders that a lot of clubs in Europe are looking for. I'm sure a lot are looking at him as well. And he's had a really, really strong season, especially statistically, in terms of his defensive numbers, his tackles, his interceptions, his blocks. We're looking in sort of the top 20, 15% in Europe across other midfielders. So, yeah, really good. I think Brighton's season as a whole has been a little bit up and down and maybe at times not reached where they've wanted to be. It felt like there was opportunity for them to get European football this season. I think it's still there, but looking less likely as the games go on. But I think Baleba has been one of those players who's been a real constant in that Brighton side that has been hit by a number of injuries, has seen a lot of rotation, especially in midfield. And Baleba, it feels like when he's fit, he is one of the first name on the team sheet for a really, really good Brighton side. So yeah, for me, I would put him into great. I think he sneaks into great for me because I think on his day he can be one of the best defensive midfielders in the league for me.
I agree completely on your consistency point because when I was doing this, I was trying to really separate the individual performance and the team's performance, because sometimes when the team performs a certain way, sometimes all the players in the team kind of get dragged with that narrative as well. But I think that Baleba was actually, like you said, gone away from that narrative, and he has been consistent throughout. For me, I think I agree, he isn't great for me as well. I think he should be an elite, and I think his potential and his talent level is going to be elite one day. But I think this season, I think he's maybe last season he set the bar so high with his breakthrough season that we thought that he was going to be elite this year round. But I think this season he's just fallen a little bit short of elite, and I think he has been great. But I mean, if you're a club looking at Brighton, and I know, sorry, Brighton fans will probably be like, oh, not another team looking at our players. But I think if he went for 100 million, I don't think people bat an eyelid, which says a lot about his talent level and his performances. So I am more than happy to go with great, if that's what you're happy with as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's maybe, like you said, a few little things that could get him into that elite category. Maybe a little bit more of those driving runs that we saw. I think we saw them a little bit more last season. It seems like he's been a little bit more conservative this season, given the shape of the Brighton side, and that's I think that's sort of where he fits in that system. But yeah, to get into elite, a few more of those driving runs, a little bit more progressive, and yeah, that's something that he definitely has the quality to do as well.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of... I mean, we've decided where we're putting him, so it doesn't really matter. But I disagree on the driving runs bit, just because I remember looking at the stats, and he's made 1.11 successful take-ons per 90, which puts him in the top 88% of all midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues. And the midfielder bracket is kind of difficult, because depending on what website you look at, that includes some wingers who are deemed a bit more defensive and therefore in midfielders as well. So he's competing against some of those. So I think it's been alright. I think actually, if he's playing 6, you probably don't want him to be driving too far. But if he has that in his game and does it every now and then, I think it's like a real asset. So I don't know. I disagree, but it doesn't matter because he's going great regardless. Do you want to have a retort on that, or do you just want to move on?
No, I'm happy to move on. Yeah, should we move on to Chelsea?
Yes. Chelsea, and we decided to go for Levi Colwill because he's played 32 matches at the time of recording, 32 starts, 1 goal, 1 assist. I talked about him a little bit in terms of last week's podcast in talking... Well, actually, I don't want to say what last week's podcast was in case you haven't watched it. Go watch that one after you watch this one. But maybe, Toby, you want to start off with how you feel like Levi Colwill's done this season, because maybe I've given it away with what I said last season, what I think of him.
Yeah, I think with Levi Colwill, if we were talking about his season at Brighton, which again I mentioned on last week's episode, that really felt to me like, okay, we have got a serious player on our hands. And I loved watching him when he was at Brighton. I think he fit that system so well, was performing so well. And since he's come back to Chelsea, it maybe hasn't gone as well as it did at Brighton. I think he has been really good, really solid, and you can still see those real qualities that he has, especially on the ball, especially being what is really looked for in football at the moment, which is that left-footed, left-sided centre-back. And I think he does that all really, really well. I do think over his time at Chelsea, and especially this season, there are some defensive frailties in his game that maybe his on-the-ball work sort of outweighs, so he still is in that Chelsea side. Yeah, it's a funny one. Really, really like the player, but it still feels like there's a little bit more that he could give.
Yeah, this is a bit of an awkward one because we talked about him last week and he hasn't really had an opportunity to put a string of games together since we've next talking about him, because it's literally just been one. So, I mean, for me, I've got him in okay. I'm trying to separate expectation versus what he's done. If there was a category which is just good, just solid, middle of the road, I would put him in there. But we're trying to get off the fence. We're trying to give your opinions of what we think. And I think in terms of the categories that we have, I've got him in okay. Do you agree?
Yeah, I originally had him in breakthrough, but then I thought, well, it's not. It hasn't been a breakthrough, and in a way, it feels like he needs a second breakthrough after his breakthrough season at Brighton, which I do think will come, and I really hope does come, because I think he'll be a fantastic asset for Chelsea and England especially. I would go for okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of young players go through this. They break onto the scene in like a breakthrough year. Expectations get higher of them, but also other teams and oppositions start to look at them as like a serious threat, and therefore they end up having a not as good a season next season because they're still youngsters, they're still learning their game and themselves, and then they come back. So we'll see where Levi Colwill is next season. I expect him to have a very good career, and I don't think it'll be an issue. But I think this season I think okay for sure. So then we move on to Tim Iroegbunam of Everton. And I'd like to go first on this, if that's okay, because I quite like Tim Iroegbunam. I love saying his name first and foremost because I think it's a great name. But I remember watching him in the Championship with QPR, and I remember thinking to myself that, do you know what? This looks like a really, really good, promising player, and Aston Villa have got a real talent on their hands. He then ends up moving to Everton because of the whole PSR transfers that were going on in the summer. And I was excited because I thought he's going to be getting a decent bit of game time. I thought he was someone in midfield who could provide a bit more younger legs. And he did play a decent amount at the beginning of this season with a couple of injuries in that Everton midfield. And I was excited. I was happy that he's getting game time. I was looking forward to seeing this player develop. And it hasn't quite worked out this season, especially because I think at the start of the season, Everton were struggling a little bit under Sean Dyche. They're playing a lot of defensive football, and actually Tim Iroegbunam's defensive stats are fantastic because I think he was playing in that very defensive Everton side at the start of the season, which was just all about trying to win no more than anything else and just trying to survive. Whereas as the season's gone on, I think his his lack of experience has been exposed, and sometimes he just tends to switch off in moments, and it has cost him. And I think back to the Everton game against Bournemouth, which I think Bournemouth scored like 3 goals in the last 5 minutes or something to take the win away from Everton, and he was highlighted, I think by Monday Night Football as being one of the real reasons why they lost that game. Not because he did anything bad, because he just lost concentration, he was knackered, he lost his marker, and that led to the defeat. Harsh, but I think that was fair at the time, and I think he has been taken out of the side. Only 17 matches played, 5 starts in the league, got 1 assist, but only 562 minutes. And I think next season, I'm really looking forward to him because Decore and Garner are both out of contract. Whether to stay or not is still up for debate. But I think you can see him getting more minutes next season. I'm really excited to see his development because I do think there is a very talented player in him.
Yeah, like you said, his per 90 stats are absolutely mental. He's in the top 1% of midfielders in Europe for sort of almost all of the defensive statistics when you look at it per 90. So yeah, when he has been playing defensively, he's been absolutely amazing for the little while. And yeah, like you said, I think probably sort of that natural Idrissa Gana Gueye replacement that I think is definitely needed. He has been playing well for his age, but as you said, they need someone a bit younger, a bit more leggy in there. And I think he could be the man. I think next season could certainly be his breakthrough year as that Wonderkid for Everton. For me, he's in need more minutes. Just over 500 minutes, so a little bit more than Andrés García that we had in that same category. But I think for somebody like Iroegbunam, when you want to see a midfielder really work, they do have to get a good string of games under them, which unfortunately he hasn't really been given the chance to.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Gotta needs more games. 562 minutes in the league isn't really enough. I think maybe if 1,000 minutes plus, then you can start judging and maybe he's having an okay or a great season. But yeah, definitely needs more games. Let's move on then to Fulham. And do you want to take the lead with their 18-year-old centre midfielder, Joshua King?
Yeah, again, this is even a smaller sample size. I think on our list, he's one of the players who's played the least. Only 5 matches played, one of those a start, 80 minutes in total. So not even a full 90 just yet for Joshua King, who's come up from the Fulham Academy. But yeah, seems like a really decent prospect. I think what he's done with the limited time that he's had in the Prem and in a few cup competitions as well, playing in that midfield for Fulham, he's been really good. He's got a 0.6 non-penalty expected goals plus expected assists per 90 in the... Well, not per 90, actually, that's what he's got, so it's even higher per 90 in that really small sample size. So, not too much to say for him, given it's only been 80 minutes. Somebody to keep an eye out for that may try and sort of push their way into that Fulham side. But for now, yeah, not really too much more I can say on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. I tried to go back and watch as much of that start he made against Southampton. He looked okay. A couple of decent passes. Didn't set the world alight, but also didn't make any mistakes. It definitely seemed like an 18-year-old who was just making his debut for the first time, if that makes sense, because nowadays you see 18-year-olds just setting the world alight, but not all of them do that. And I think, yeah, he's fine. He needs more games, very definitely. I think that's quite a simple one. And let's then just move on to Ipswich and Liam Delap, because I think there's possibly 3 categories he could go into because of what a fantastic season he's had. It could be his breakthrough year. He could have had a great season. But depending on how you want to twist it, he could even have an elite season. And I'm struggling. I don't really know where I should be putting Liam Delap because he could be in all 3.
Yeah, a really, really good season. And a season that I think especially stands out given how difficult the season has been for Ipswich as a whole in the Prem, obviously now being relegated. It's looking like sort of one of the lowest points in terms of those sort of bottom three teams combined. And in 34 games, 31 of those being starts, he's got 12 goals and 2 assists. And those 12 goals as well coming from an expected goals value of around 9. So overperforming really well, really taking his chances when he's getting them. A part of Delap's game that I think has been really interesting as well has not just been that finishing and that movement and the way he plays in the box, but also the way he's been carrying Ipswich forward. In terms of his progressive carries and take-ons, they're really, really good when compared to strikers. And I think at times when he sort of drops in, and he's got a play and a build very similar to that of sort of Harry Kane when he was coming through at Tottenham. Less so as a creator and sort of his vision obviously I don't think is as good as Harry Kane, but the positions that he takes up on the pitch are really similar. And as you said, it's really difficult to pick which category goes to. It's certainly been a breakthrough season for Delap at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. At the very least, it's a breakthrough. It just depends how good a job we think he's done, because like I said, 12 goals and 2 assists, 14 goal returns in 34 matches at the time of recording. For a side who have been relegated from the Premier League, I think that's really good. I mean, he's one of the players that just because of when his birthday is, he's just turned 22 as well. So he just makes it into this category. So I don't know. It's a bit of a difficult one because I think a lot of sides need strikers. And also a lot of sides are looking at him as someone who's Premier League proven at a very good young age, got a release clause of £30 million, slightly undervalued in my opinion. That I think he's being linked with a lot of top clubs. But I actually think I would prefer him to actually maybe make another step, which isn't the big step, before he moves. And I'm looking at the teams in the mid-table. I'm going, I really want him just to start games, because imagine 14 goal returns in an Ipswich side who got relegated. Imagine what he could do for Everton, West Ham, Fulham, someone like that. Maybe Crystal Palace as a Mateta replacement. So I really want to see him go there, and then maybe I can be like, okay, if he can get somewhere near like 20 goal returns in the season, then I'm going, okay, fine, he might be elite. I have him just in great. You could put him in breakthrough if you wanted, no complaints. I don't think he's quite done enough to be elite. I'm really not sure, because he could go in any. Where do you have him, Tobes? Do you have him in great as well?
I just want to say before you do, whilst you were sort of saying in mid-table clubs, and I just had a thought,
Yeah.
I would love to see him at Brighton. I think he fits that build so well. Somebody who's big, can hold the ball, but is also really good at their feet and really a good finisher, which is what Brighton have needed, the amount that they seem to underperform their XG at times. So that'd be really tasty. Going back to the actual what you asked me,
Yeah.
I've got him in breakthrough, the top side of breakthrough, and that's purely because I think a few of the players that I have in great, I think they have a bit more quality about them. I could really see them becoming one of the sort of top players in Europe, let alone sort of one of the top players in their position, for example. It might be a little bit harsh. I'd be happy to bump him up to great and maybe see where we go. But yeah, I definitely don't think I could put him into elite just yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to differentiate between the future potential and what they're actually doing now. His future potential, because there's just a lack of great quality strikers at the moment, is really, really high. But if we've got Carlos Baleba in great, he has been. Do you know what? Let's put him in breakthrough for now, and of course we can change it right at the end. So we'll put him in breakthrough for now. And we'll move on to Leicester City, who have had a pretty miserable season, already relegated as well as Ipswich Town. But one of their star players has been Bilal El Khannouss, signed this season from Genk in the Belgian Pro League, got 2 goals and 3 assists, which is decent considering that last season when he played for Genk and they won the league, he only got 3 goals and 6 assists. Been one of their brightest sparks for a side who've only conceded 29 goals all season. And if he goes down with Leicester, so be it. But I think he's probably a player who's good enough to remain in the Premier League. Not sure if he's quite a starter, but definitely in some of the top 10 size squads for next season. But again, I'm trying to differentiate between the player and the club season. And it's very hard because Leicester have been pretty dreadful. So I really don't know, mate. What have you made of El Khannouss this season?
Yeah, like you said, I think maybe at times he stood out a bit more because Leicester have been so poor. And they have been so poor going forward, especially. That's where they've really, really struggled. And yeah, in some games he has been a bit of a bright spark. When you look at the numbers, nothing really stands out. His dribbling's okay in terms of sort of numbers and take-ons and carries and things like that. But yeah, I can't see anyone picking him up in the Prem. I don't think he's really stood out that much. I think maybe a season in the Championship would be fantastic for him. Get him a really good run of games, get the confidence back up in the side and in El Khannouss, and maybe could be a Prem player in the future. But yeah, as you said, with maybe his performances and Leicester's combined, I've got him in okay, basically. Where did you have him?
Okay, so before I come to where I've got him in the categories, I think someone like maybe Wolves, and I've also mentioned, I think I mentioned Mateus Fernandes at Southampton as well for Wolves. But if Mateus Cunha is to go because he does have a release clause, so he's likely to leave, then you don't need him to start week in week out because Wolves has shown to be doing all right without Mateus Cunha. But someone who could just come in and play here and there, and then play in an environment which suits them. They can play in a number 10 position. I think. Okay, if he doesn't get picked up, it's not the end of the world for him, I don't think. But also, I think he could be picked up. And should he? For 20-25 million? I think you can spend money in worse ways than that. But yes, onto the tier list. I have also got him in okay. I think if you won the league in Belgium, getting 3 goals, 6 assists, being one of the crucial players, starting 25 times, then I think the season has to be okay. But I also do think that we'll put an asterisk next to El Khannouss because he has been massively hampered by what Leicester have achieved this season.
Yeah, for sure. I've also just noticed, before you go on to the next player, we have unfortunately missed out a club. So we're going to have to go back to Crystal Palace is the one that we've missed out next.
Have we? Oh my god. Oh no. Sorry, Crystal Palace fans. That's my bad. I'm doing the running order and I just skipped it. Okay. So, Crystal Palace. Adam Wharton. Great player, isn't he, mate?
Yeah, really, really good player. Really like Adam Wharton. Sniffing in and around that England side as well. He's been that player that a lot of people are saying that we need in there. And a good season. Yeah, he had probably his breakout year last year. It felt like when he stepped into that Crystal Palace side, especially in the second half of the season, he was fantastic. When they went on that really, really good run of form, he was absolutely pivotal there. And this season, he's been pretty good as well. Maybe not the heights. And again, maybe that's to do with Crystal Palace. They haven't been playing as well as they were at the end of last season. But yeah, he's in the top 8% for central midfielders in terms of progressive passes, which is fantastic, especially for somebody playing for Palace, a side where maybe they're not as adventurous and not one of the top sides where they're going to be on the ball as much. So he's really, really making use of that ball when they do have it. And yeah, his creative numbers as well in terms of shot creating actions are really good. Yeah. Really, really like him. He's only had 16 starts this year. He was obviously injured as well for a bit, I believe, which I think would have been really good to see him get a full season under his belt at Palace. But yeah, fantastic player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year was definitely his breakthrough year when he joined from Blackburn in January, and then he ended up in the England squad for the Euro. So he did phenomenally last season. I think that has to be his breakthrough. This season, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one like many of these other ones because he did have 2 months off with an injury, with his groin injury, and he took a couple of games to get back to full fitness and get back to his pomp, which is completely expected after a long time off. So I'm trying to not take the injury away from his performances this season, because I think in the games that he has played, in the 16 starts that he did say, 2 assists, 7.53 progressive carries per 90 is absolutely massive. And he's so press resistant as well. He's honestly such an important part of Crystal Palace in that midfield, especially considering they only play with a double pivot in Glasnow's 3-4-3. I think he's great. It just depends on the season that he's had. I mean, we were talking about Eddie Nketiah last week. Imagine if Adam Wharton has a fantastic FA Cup final, ends up having a man of the match performance. It's not even beyond the realms of possibility because he's that good a player. He could be that kind of player, and he got linked with a bunch of clubs in the summer. I really like him. I think he's still only 21 as well. He's got the world at his feet. I'm trying not to take the injury into account because that can't be helped. And I went for a great season based on his performances this year. What did you go for, mate?
Yeah, this one was actually quite a difficult one for me because I had him in between great and breakthrough because I think at the end of last season he sort of had a half season there and he's basically had a half season in terms of games played now because of the injury. So maybe overall it feels like a breakthrough season, but I actually think that's a little bit harsh maybe to have him in there because like you said, he's only 20, which is crazy, and he feels like one of the most important players for Palace. And he's a really mature footballer. You know what? Yeah, I would be. I think if I think if Baleba's in great, I think Wharton, based on how he's played when he has played this season, deserves to be in there, and especially for the FA Cup as well, for them being in the final and him being a really key player. Yeah, let's be not be generous, because that sounds a bit condescending, but yeah, let's put him into great.
Okay, fine. We'll put him into great. And before we move on, I haven't missed anyone else, have I?
I don't think so. No, yeah. We can move on. We can move on to your boys now.
My boys. Well, the player we decided to go for with Liverpool is Conor Bradley. 26 matches played in all competitions this season. 11 starts, no goals, but 3 assists in 1,196 minutes this season. Definitely cannot be his breakthrough season, because last year was definitely his breakthrough year when he came on, and in the absence of Trent Alexander-Arnold through injury, set the world alight, and everyone definitely took notice. And now, funny enough, as Trent Alexander-Arnold has announced that he's leaving, it looks like he's going to be playing a massive part of next season for this Liverpool side, for this title-winning Liverpool side. I mean, key moments from this season, definitely his tackle on Mbappe in the Champions League, where I think Liverpool as a whole were fantastic, Real Madrid as a whole were poor, but that moment, Liverpool fans will never let Conor Bradley forget the moment, even if he wants to try and forget that. I think he's great. I think he's maybe a different type of fullback to Trent, in the fact that he's more of a up and down fullback, kind of mirrors Andy Robertson on the left hand side. I think he potentially has a better delivery, and I'm not sure that's because Robertson hasn't been delivering as much in terms of going forward, but I think he averages just under 5 touches in penalty area per 90, which is absolutely loads. And if Mohamed Salah is staying now for another 2 more years with that contract extension, he needs to be going up and down, trying to be the legs for Salah so Salah can go into midfield. I think he is fantastic. However, with everything I've just said, I don't think he's had a great season. I think it's just been okay, and I can't put him in breakthrough. It's difficult because he's a player at my own club, so maybe I'm always a bit harsh. Maybe it's like you and Lewis-Skelly, and maybe you wanted to put him in great instead of elite. What do you think about Conor Bradley?
Yeah, I absolutely love Conor Bradley. I think he's superb. I think if he, for example, if Trent left last season and Bradley was your right back, he would be starting most games, and he could potentially genuinely, I think, go into elite. The games I've seen him play, the moments I've seen him play, he looks so confident, he looks so quick, he looks absolutely superb. Carries, touches, passes, all in sort of the top 10% versus Europe's fullbacks. Really, really like him. I've actually gone for maybe a bit of a controversial category, and this is, if anything, because I rate him so highly, and I'm really looking forward to next season and hoping that he's going to be that starting right back for Liverpool. I've actually got him in need more minutes. In the Prem this season, 567 minutes, which is the same as Iroegbunam, who we also had in that same category. I think a player of his quality, he needs more minutes, and I'm hoping he's going to get him next season. So that's where I've got him at the moment.
I can see why you've done that. I don't like why you've done that, because now it puts me in a difficult position, because I watch him more than you. So I've got, maybe, I don't know. So I had him, I don't think he... Well, yes, he does need more minutes. That's 100% true. But the thing is, he's going to get those more minutes as well. But I can't account for what's going to happen in the future. I need to talk about him this season. But also, he's been injured.
I don't think he's played. He hasn't played. He just hasn't played enough. For me, for a player of his quality, it's not less more about sample size with like a few of these other players. I just think if Trent wasn't leaving, I would be thinking Bradley needs to leave to go to a club where he's going to play.
Yes, but Conor Bradley himself has also had some injury issues as well. So he's never missed like a long period of time, but he's missed always like 3 or 4 weeks here and there. And that's never helped him, because when he does get a game, then he gets injured. Yes, he needs more games. I don't know if I just overrule and just go, he's just okay.
I think that's so harsh. I think that's really, really harsh if he goes into okay. But it's, yeah, as you said, you're the Liverpool fan. You probably are better to call this one.
Oh, for God's fine, you've won. He's going and needs more minutes. But his
he needs on his day, especially like you said last season, when he was so good when he came in that side, and this season it just felt like he hasn't been given as much of a chance.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I can't remember which player I said it with, but if they were just he being good, but we're trying to get off the fence and not just put everyone in good. So yeah, he can't go into great. I didn't like putting him in okay. No. Okay, fine. We will put him in needs more minutes. And we'll move on to Manchester City, and we've decided to go for Sávio or Savinho. It depends what website you look. I don't know what he's going by in terms of his names. But yes, signed from Girona in La Liga last season, coming to his debut season in the Premier League. And how have you thought he's done so far, Toby?
I think in terms of technical ability and how good a player could be, he's probably one of the best in Europe. I can't believe he's only 21. I was so surprised when I thought maybe when they signed him he was sort of 23 at the very least, but when they signed him he was 20 and he looks so good. His creative numbers, the way he creates chances, his dribbling I think is all so good. He's technically outstanding. His carries, his touches, his stats are fantastic as well. Really, really good. And as you said, eight assists. And only the one goal from an XG of almost 5. So, yeah, certainly something to work on in terms of his finishing. But, yeah, this guy's the real deal. I absolutely love Savinho. I think he's really good.
Yeah, I love him as well. And if you want to even take all competitions into account, then it's 2 goals and 12 assists. So 14 attacking returns in his first season in English football at the age of 21. I don't think this can be his breakthrough year because he got 9 goals and 10 assists last season for Girona in a side which finished third in La Liga. So he definitely, set himself up on the world stage and everyone definitely took notice because if it wasn't for the fact that Girona and Man City are kind of owned by the same people, then, for the fee, he definitely might have cost even up to double that. And not only that, he might have had more options than just Manchester City. It depends where you want to put him because I think potential-wise, I agree. He's fantastic. I think despite the fact he's got 14 attacking returns, he could have so much more. If he perfects his final product, Man City have got a dangerous right-hand side with Savinho and left-hand side with Jeremy Doku. That could be absolutely petrifying for the rest of the league. But in terms of this season, where do you put him? I've got him in okay. I've just got him in okay.
What? You've got him in okay? That is mental. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I've got him in great. I think he has been really, really good. And like his potential is 100% elite. He maybe has been in and around the side, but I cannot put him into okay. No. He's got to be great.
Oh, it's a difficult one because
I'm sorry.
If there was a good,
no disrespect to El Khannouss, but they can't go in the same category, especially the way Sávio started the season. He looked so good. He was one of the first names on the team sheet in the first half of the season. I don't really know why he's come out the side. Maybe he hasn't been performing as well. I haven't watched every Man City game, but oh man, no, I can't have him in okay. I'm going to push for that for sure.
Fine. Do you know what? I don't feel strongly about it enough to argue about it, so I'm happy to put him in great, I'll be honest. I just thought the fact that he started to see, I don't know, maybe it's the price tag, maybe because he already had a breakthrough, and then in comparison to last season, I suppose, but I don't feel strongly enough about it to argue about it. I can't believe I'm saying this though, but I will be arguing strongly for this next one in a positive way, because next up we have Manchester United and we have Alejandro Garnacho, still only 20 years old, not enough for a breakthrough season, but definitely he's been around for a couple of years now. 6 goals and 2 assists this season. And where do you want to talk about him first? Because this might be one which we argue about, I think.
Yeah, this was a difficult one for me to decide, and I think a lot of it was maybe in terms of expectation of him. 6 goals and 2 assists in the Premier this season from expected values of nearly 13, so a little bit underperforming in both goals and assists, and that is probably reflective in terms of the assists, maybe of how Man United have performed this season, the struggles that they've had in front of goal. Again, I think could be one of the best players in Europe. It's only 20, and it feels like he should be way older. He should be way older. He's been around for ages, and he has real quality. And this was the one where I struggled, I think, between great and okay. I think he, again, could be, when he's older, elite. I don't think it's been a great season, maybe set by the standards that he has, so maybe he goes into okay. But in terms of the players on this list, he's one of the best, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely. On his day, he's absolutely phenomenal and arguably already unplayable. So I'll reveal why I feel quite strongly about this. Because initially, before I even thought about doing any research. I just looked at Man United, Alejandro Garnacho, and I went, right, he's got to be lower down. He definitely doesn't need more minutes. He's got to be an okay. And if there's a category, I'd be putting him into poor. However, when I looked into the stats, I realized that's 6 goals and 2 assists in the league, yes, but that is 11 goals and 10 assists in all competitions. Which, take away the name Alejandro Garnacho, take away the club name Man United. For a side that are 15th in the league, he's got 6 goals and 2 assists at the age of 20. And in all competitions, he's got 11 goals and 10 assists. That is actually a really good attack and return. That's not too dissimilar to Savinho, which we just talked about for Manchester City. That's actually better in terms of... Yeah, that's the same, I think, in terms... No, that's better in terms of all competitions, but not in terms of the league, in terms of attack and returns. But in the terms of his performances, which I think have dropped off this season, there is a obvious reason for that, which I'm looking at right now. He's played 3,437 minutes in all competitions this season. I've often thought he needs to be taken out of the firing line because of his performances. But however, Man United have loaned out Jadon Sancho at the beginning of the season, Anthony and Rashford in January. Mason Mount's been injured for a large portion of the season. Kobe Mainoo's been injured for a large portion of the season. Now Xerxes is out, but then before that, Xerxes and Holland were never quite clicking. Plus the fact that Man United have had multiple injuries throughout, so the squad hasn't been fit, it hasn't been regular, so it hasn't been able to have a link up with anyone in particular. I think, before I did any research, I was like, Garnacho poor. But after it, I was like, there is absolutely a reason why he's performing poor by the standards that we have set from him and his performances. I actually think, take away the name of Garnacho, take away the name of Man United, I think he has to go in great season. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, I did have him in great. If it was like ranked from sort of top tier great to lower, it would be towards the lower end. But again, it's the expectation of him. He's so young, and when you think of how maybe Man United fans still expecting more from him, and I think that is maybe a reflection of how good he can be and maybe how poor Man United have been, and that's why he hasn't performed as well this season. But yeah, he's still one of their best players, and Again, it's one of those players like Sávio where I think he could be sort of elite in the future, one of the best wingers if he can get a good side and a good system. And if United sell him, I think that is mental, especially to Chelsea.
I think that's mental as well. I don't know what's going on financially with Man United. I don't think anyone really does, but if they can afford to keep him, they absolutely should. He could be phenomenal. He could be absolutely phenomenal, but only time will tell, I suppose. Let's move on then from one United to another with Newcastle United. And the Wonderkid we've gone for is Lewis Hall. Yes, because I had down written Tino Livramento and I was like, hang on, I didn't remember researching Tino Livramento, but we decided to go for Lewis Hall just because we both love him, Toby, don't we?
Oh, mate, this guy. I was so gutted when he was injured, not just for my fantasy team where he was absolutely racking in the points, but for Newcastle United and for England as well. It felt like the first half of the season for England was Lewis Hall and the second half was Lewis-Skelly, and I think without that injury, I don't think Lewis-Skelly would have got into that England side. Lewis Hall was playing that well. He was so good, man, both ways, defensively, going forward. His creative stats are absolutely off the charts compared to fullbacks. He was so good. 4 assists in the league, 24 starts this season, and somebody I think at the start of the season we weren't really sure how much he was going to play, whether it was going to be Dan Burn at left back or Livramento. Lewis Hall came in, killed it. First name on the team sheet before his injury, and yeah, it's been an amazing year for him.
Yeah, last season I think he had roughly 18 matches played. I think only 10 of those starts. This season, you could argue, has been his breakthrough. I would probably say it's last season, but this season he's done so well that he's an established left back at Newcastle now. Like I said, unfortunately for England, he could have been the established left back. Thankfully, England have Lewis-Skelly at the moment coming through as well, but it could have been Lewis Hall, and arguably should have been. I was really looking forward to seeing him in March, and also what he could have done in the summer for those 2 games as well. Like I said, defensively, offensively, he's fantastic. And I know Chelsea sold him for profit. I mean, 100% profit, but they could have kept him. They could have had an absolute world beater on their hands. I love him. You love him. He's got to go in elite, doesn't he?
Yeah, I will be honest, and I'll say what my list was originally, and that was that I only had one player in elite in my list, and that was Dean Huijsen, because I felt that he was so far ahead of everyone else that I wanted him in his own category. But because we've got Lewis-Skelly in there, who again I had at the top tier of great, I think if he is in there, Lewis Hall has got to be in there as well. So more than happy to put him in elite.
Yeah, I had Lewis Hall in elite as well as Lewis-Skelly. And I think there's different. There's almost mini categories within the main category. So I was just like, do you know what? There's nothing wrong. We're not saying a certain amount have to be because they're young players. So you really want to put them where you think they deserve to be rather than some of the more experienced players. So yeah, Lewis Hall into elite as well. What about his former teammate Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest? 39 appearances in all competitions this season, 34 in the Premier League, 2 goals and 6 assists. You know, if you watch the England podcast, that I absolutely love him. I think he should have been in that England squad. Got it when he wasn't. I love Elliot Anderson. I think for what Nottingham Forest in general this season, from where everyone expected them to be to where they are now. I mean, we're going to be doing at the end of the season our reviewing our preseason predictions. It's going to be absolutely horrendous. But Nottingham Forest, and I think Elliot Anderson has played such an underrated part because everyone's maybe talking about Chris Wood and his performances and potentially his over performances. Morgan Gibbs-White being fantastic in the middle of the park and him being linked with the likes of Manchester City. The wire players of Callum Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga dropping down from big clubs to Nottingham Forest, who at the time were not performing as well, and now look at the careers they're having. The signing of Milenkovic on the fee that it was. Aina come from Chelsea. But I don't think Elliot Anderson, just because I think he's been so consistent, has been getting as many plaudits as I think he deserves. So for me, I think in terms of Nottingham Forest player of the season, he might not win it, but I think he definitely deserves a shout. And he's playing so well that I think he's actually gone under the radar, and no one's even mentioning him. So I love Elliot Anderson.
Yeah, I completely echo all of those thoughts, mate. And I think especially given, like I mentioned with Lewis Hall, I wasn't too sure how much he was going to get into the side. It felt like this was going to be the season that if he did, he would. And since he's been playing, he has just been absolutely outstanding. He has been one of, potentially even if not the best player for Nottingham Forest this season, one of the best midfielders in the league, and somebody who's been so good at everything, I think as well, is something that maybe gets him a little bit underrated in terms of if you've got a really good attacking midfielder racking up goals and assists, if you've got a really good defensive midfielder shoring things up. But I think because he does both so well and so consistently, like you said, he does go under the radar, unfortunately. 2 goals, 6 assists. He's in the top 20% in Europe in midfield for almost every single stat that you want from your midfielder in terms of your take-ons, your progressive passes and carries, your interceptions, your blocks. Superb player, so good. And it's been really good, I think, to see the play we heard of at Newcastle, of the Newcastle fans screaming for him to get the chance and get into the side. Nottingham Forest have seen that, picked him up, thrown him in the side, and they might be getting Champions League football with him because of it.
Yeah, I hope they do. They've been a bit ropey the last couple of weeks, but I hope they get it done because it'd be so sad if they didn't. I mean, if they got Europa League, it'd be great. But they got knocked out of the FA Cup semi-finals as well, and I was just, it doesn't seem to be going their way. In terms of this one, I think I'm quite happy to put him in great, despite the fact that I said how much I love him. I think he is great. I think the only thing missing is I would like to see him maybe dominate games of football ahead of his opposition. I think there are a couple of times where I see other midfielders maybe get the better of him in terms of possession and controlling and dictating a game. I know it's not Nottingham Forest style of play, but sometimes I want to see him get pressed, him just get past a player, however way that is, whether it's just a 1-2 or out muscling someone or maybe just with an intricate pass. And I want to see him just dictate a game. And if I think he can do that, then he will literally have everything, and therefore everyone will be looking at him similarly to Carlos Baleba. So I've got him in great.
Yeah, I would also, I think, agree on great. It's so close to being elite, and it's crazy to think that maybe him not being elite feels a little bit harsh. But yeah, I would be happy to go for great. I think that's what I had him originally.
Okay, Elliot Anderson of Nottingham Forest goes into great, and then another Englishman, this time on the south coast, is Tyler Dibling at Southampton. 4 goals and 3 assists in all competitions this season for the 19-year-old winger. 36 appearances, totaling 2,081 minutes, which is more than I expected, actually. And I'm a bit torn with Dibling. Well, actually, no, I know where I'm putting him. But the thing is, I've heard, obviously, people being like, oh, he's a £100 million player. I don't think he's that. And I think that's actually just rubbed people's noses the wrong way a little bit about him. And people are going, oh, he's not worth that. What are you on about? He's rubbish. And I'm like, no, he is very good. He's very promising. He's not worth £100 million. but I think he's definitely worth 40-50 million. I think he's great.
Oh yeah, I think he's an absolutely fantastic talent, and I think Southampton coming out, or I can't remember exactly who it was who came out and said the 100 million somebody at the club. I think it's absolutely stupid. I think, why are you slapping that label on a 19-year-old kid who has been one of your best players this season and has been the player that people are looking to whilst you've been absolutely shocking. It really actually wound me up, the reaction to that. Like you were saying, people saying he's not worth that, because I think it's made him ridiculously underrated now, because people are saying he's not a £100 million player when that should have never been said in the first place. But anyway, yeah, 18 starts and 2 goals for Southampton this season, and I think you can tell how good he is and how good he's going to be. I think, obviously, with him being a sort of winger, attacking midfielder, his numbers aren't exceptional, and in terms of statistically, nothing is really sort of standout-ish besides his take-ons, which are really strong compared to other wingers in Europe. But I think it's been a really good start and a really good breakthrough season for him, and you can really see that quality. And I think if Southampton keep a hold of him into the Championship next season, 100% a player to watch out for. I think he could really, really shine there, get a bit of confidence, get a few of those goal and assist numbers up, and then if he comes back into the Prem, that's where things could really start to go his way.
I know, to bring it back to Leicester and Bilal El Khannouss, I know you kind of were like okay with it, but you didn't really agree in the fact that you think El Khannouss was too good for the Championship. Do you think if Tyler Dibling cost the same amount as El Khannouss, Tyler Dibling would definitely be in the Premier League next season?
Ooh. I'm not sure, because I do think Southampton really want to keep a hold of him, and I think it would be better for him to keep a hold of him as well. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's really strange, because you can tell how good he is, but I don't think at the moment clubs will be really running to sign him, if that makes sense.
No, but no, that's absolutely fine. But do you think he deserves to be in the Prem more than El Khannouss?
In terms of his ability in the season he's had, yes, I do think he would deserve to be in there more. In terms of the player, I don't think that would be better for him to stay in the Prem though. But yeah, I think in terms of the quality and the technical ability he has, he's for me one of the most talented youngsters in the league this season. You can just see it. His touches, the way he controls the ball, the way he I think his decision making is really, really good, and he looks like a really mature player, only 19 as well. So yeah, I would certainly say a stronger season than El Khannouss.
I mean, the thing is, with Dibling, it's the price tag. I mean, he's not going to go for 100 million, obviously. But if he went for 40 or 50 million, I think that's a little bit too much, too early for him. And we haven't seen enough of that. And that's a substantial fee for a side nowadays, especially if it's not in the Premier League and it's somewhere in Europe. Like, I could see even someone like Borussia Dortmund, who invests heavily in very young talents and sell them on for 3-4 times that amount. You can't see them paying that much for him. So, yeah, I think, I mean, if he were to get a Championship, I think that'd be best for him and his development. But if you're a club and, El Khannouss and Dibling were the same price, I would go for Dibling over El Khannouss, in my opinion. Just because I think just a bit more magic. I don't know what it is, but just magic, that's all I can say. But we're putting them in breakthrough for this tier list.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tap in this one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. He was one of the easiest ones, I think, just breakthrough for this season. And very look forward to seeing whatever he does going forward. Move on then to Tottenham Hotspur. Lucas Bergvall we decided to go for. They have a lot of young, exciting players, Tottenham, but this one has been one that's really stood out to the both of us.
Yeah, it's been a really good season for him, in a season where Spurs have been very, very inconsistent. And even then, with the way that their lineup seems to be changing every week, even Bergvall doesn't seem to be much of a constant. 27 matches played and 11 starts in the league, and has featured obviously very heavily in their Europa League campaign as well. But looks like a really good player. I wasn't too sure of him at the start of the season, I'll be honest, when I was watching him when he first signed, and in the sort of first half of the season. A few little question marks maybe, but I think second half of the season he's really, really stepped up and become a little bit more comfortable and accustomed in the setup, which I'm sure has made a difference. But yeah, in terms of take-ons and carries, he looks really, really good, really good at picking that ball up and driving it forward for Spurs, which I think is something they've definitely needed this season. So yeah, I've been impressed with him, especially given his age as well. And I think with a few of these players, when you've got players doing it sort of centrally as the spine of a team in terms of your central mids and centre backs, and players that young doing these roles so well, it just makes it even more impressive, doesn't it?
Mate, that was exactly what I was about to say. The fact that he's doing it in the centre midfield. I mean, we see Lewis-Skelly, how amazingly he's doing at Arsenal. I'm not trying to make this about Spurs versus Arsenal, but he's been starting out as the left back, even though he's a midfielder. And you look at Tottenham, Archie Gray, he's moved literally across the entire back four. But Bergvall, for some reason, and I think for the right reasons, and Postecoglou trust him in that midfield, and I do too. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. And like you said, looked maybe a little bit lightweight at the beginning of the season, wasn't used to the tempo of the Premier League, but then he's adapted so quickly, and that to me shows footballing intelligence, and I think he's absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, he's injured now from now to the end of the season because the end of the season is so close. But if Spurs, and again, we're recording this before the Europa Leagues, and we expect Spurs probably to get through to the final, if he was fit, and if the entire Spurs squad was fit, I'll be starting him in that midfield. I think he is amazing, and I think he'd look even better if he had a world-class number 6 right next to him. Someone, Basuma and Bentancur have been a little bit disappointments, also very injury-prone, some suspensions here and there as well. So if he had a consistent world-class number 6 next to him, I think he would excel even more. So I just love some of these young players. I'm really, really excited about the future of football. I've got him in the elite as well. I'll just say it. Go ahead. You can bring me back down to reality.
Whoa! I was not expecting that. Okay. I had him in breakthrough because I think it's been a really, really good breakthrough, and I really like him. It was just looking at some of the players I had in great in terms of your Sávio and your Garnachos, and I wasn't sure if he was quite at that level just yet. But maybe we could find common ground and put him into great if you'd be happy to have him in there as well.
Yeah, see, I knew I wasn't going to win with the lead, so I made sure I just wanted to start off high in case you had him in okay. I wasn't sure if your Arsenal bias was going to come into it. So yeah, I'm absolutely happy to put him in great. Not a problem whatsoever.
Nice, yeah, that sounds good. A nice, happy compromise there.
Yes. Then let's move on to another London team with West Ham United and Oliver Scarles. Breakthrough definitely in terms of this season, but how good has he been? 18 matches in all competitions, 14 in the league, played a mixture of left back and left wing back, starting ahead of someone like Emerson Palmieri, which has been a bit interesting because when I looked, he doesn't seem to be injured, which is what I initially thought, but he's done okay. I think it's fair to say, not really set the world alight, but still very good for a 19-year-old, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think at times when West Ham have been playing with a back three, he seems to suit that wing back role really well. Not too sure about him going forward as a sort of left back as opposed to a left wing back, given that he is sort of more of a winger and a wide midfielder. But yeah, he's looked good. And in a struggling West Ham side, he's come in and performed pretty well. He's got decent numbers as well in terms of his sort of defensive numbers, which is where I said I think he may struggle a little bit more if he was further back, but statistically he looks all right. So yeah, it looks good. Just under 600 minutes in the Prem, so not a massive sample size, but yeah, it's a funny one. This, does it feel like a breakthrough? I don't know. How do you see it?
Well, I think it's interesting because, like I mentioned, he is keeping Emerson out of the side. So he's playing ahead of an established, international player as well, not just a regular Premier League starter. Why that is, I'm not sure. Because I think Emerson could definitely have done a job. I'm not sure if Graham Potter just doesn't fancy him. I'm not sure if something's gone on behind the scenes. West Ham haven't been too great in terms of points that they've won so far this season under Graham Potter. I really want to... Dibling and Delap and breakthrough. I don't think we can put him in that same category because I think they've just been a level above. You could put him in needs more games, but if you think he's played enough, because he has played 14 times in the league, then we could put him in just okay. But again, he's probably in the same bracket as maybe like a Yarmoliuk, but not quite at the same level as Colwill and El Khannouss. I think maybe needs more games.
Yeah, I had him in needs more minutes. I think next season we could definitely see that, and that could be his real breakthrough year. And I think just for now, minute seems fair as well, given he's only 19 as well, and he was kind of thrown into the side almost, it feels like.
Yeah, it almost feels like Graham Potter's trying to get some sympathy from the West Ham fans and being like, I'm putting one of your own in, give me a bit more time. And I'm like, maybe just win something against football, Graham. But the last team on the list is Wolverhampton Wanderers. Sorry, guys, I know you're always last when it comes to a tier list, but we've got Rodrigo Gomes, 20-year-old winger, 25 matches in all competitions this season, 9 starts, 3 goals, no assists. How much have you seen of him, and have you been impressed?
I can't lie, not too much, especially given it's obviously 22 matches played and only 6 starts, a lot of appearances off the bench in the Prem this season. So yeah, I can't really give too much of an opinion of what I've watched of him, but looking at the numbers, he looks pretty good in terms of sort of progressive passes received and touches. He looks like he's getting in the right positions and receiving the ball in those right positions. And even in terms of like pressing and defensive work as well, his numbers look pretty strong, which I think is something that we don't normally tend to associate Wolves with in terms of their press. So yeah, he seems like a pretty good prospect. Maybe not trusted with sort of too many starts just yet. But yeah, have you seen a little bit more of him than me, perhaps?
I want to be completely honest. I haven't. No, I've seen probably by the sounds of it exactly as much as you have. I think it's one of those where, as a forward player, which I think he is more of than rather than wing back, that I think you probably are going to get your minutes mainly off the bench, not going to be trusted to start, and maybe with your energy and youthfulness, do something off the bench to really help us side get a draw, get a win in the game. I hope he doesn't start playing as a wing back, because I think, Aiden Nuri's done a fantastic job at left wing back. Right wing back, you've got Nelson Semedo, but also you've also got Pedro Lima coming through the ranks as well. So I think he's another promising player, but hasn't necessarily got as many minutes as Rodrigo Gomes. So I wonder what's going to happen next season because I really like Victor Pereira. I think he's been great since he's come into Wolves. I think he's actually revolutionised the Wolves team. Who knew that playing 3 at the back, or the Wolves side, who have the players for a 3 at the back, would result in an upturn of form. But I think I'm really looking forward to the future with him. And I think if Cunha does leave, then you may be thinking about, okay, you need a player to fill in those minutes. I think with the money coming in, because it's a straight up release clause, there'll be money up front, that Wolves will go on ahead and sign a player. So I'm not sure how he gets into the team, Rodrigo Gomes, especially for now. But I think needs more minutes. I know it's safe, but I think it is obvious.
Yeah, I have him actually between the two categories of okay and needs more minutes, because yes, I think he could do with some more minutes, but it feels like, as you said, with sort of him playing wing back and Cunha's, even times when Cunha was not playing because of suspension, he still wasn't really trusted, and I'm not sure if he'll ever be able to get that trust. Like you said, if Cunha goes and they sign somebody, I'm not sure where the minutes are going to come from Rodrigo Gomes. So yeah, I had him in between okay and needs more minutes. I wasn't really sure where to go. So if you'd like him and needs more minutes to be kinder on our last player, then I'm happy with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we probably should be kinder of him, especially since neither of us have seen absolutely loads of him. We've seen flashes and highlights and stuff, but I think if there was an in-between category of needs more starts, that's probably what it needs. But I don't see the vision. I can, like with Conor Bradley, Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to leave. Conor Bradley's going to take up the number 1 position at right back. I can see where he's going to get minutes, but I just can't see it with Rodrigo Gomes. You know what? He looks okay. He's come from the Portuguese league. It's his first season in England. Who knows? Next season he might have a breakthrough here, and we'll be doing this same we're doing next time and be like, yeah, he actually proved us quite wrong.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. So yeah, that's all of our players done. Do you want to run through our final rankings?
I mean, I'll run through them slowly, because I'll also ask you if you think we should be changing any of them. Okay, so from the bottom up, needs more minutes. We've got Andrés García and Aston Villa, Tim Iroegbunam at Everton, Joshua King at Fulham, Conor Bradley at Liverpool, Oliver Scarles at West Ham, and Rodrigo Gomes at Wolves. So we've got 6 players there. Any of those that you disagree with or you'd like to change?
No, I'm happy with all of those. I think they work in there, if you agree.
I'm not sure about Conor Bradley, I'll be honest.
Oh, he's come back to it. I knew this was going to happen.
Well, yeah, you could see it coming because it's a dodgy pick, mate. Can I make a final play? I don't know how I would go about convincing you there, because you made a very valid argument. Just because his performances have been good when he has played. Okay. I'll have a think and I'll come back to him. So, in terms of the next tier above, in OK, we've only got 3 players. We've got Yarmoliuk at Brentford, Levi Colwill at Chelsea, and Bilal El Khannouss at Leicester City. You okay with all those 3 players there?
I think so, yeah.
Do you know what? I actually agree with you there. I think I'm happy with all of them there for now. In the middle tier, we've got breakthrough season. We've got Liam Delap at Ipswich Town, and we've got Tyler Dibling at Southampton. I'm happy with those. You happy with those as well?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And then in great season, the second from the top, we've got Carlos Baleba at Brighton and Hove Albion, Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace, Sávio/Savinho at Manchester City, Alejandro Garnacho at Manchester United, Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest, and Lucas Bergvall of Tottenham Hotspur. I'm pretty happy with all of those.
Yeah, it feels like I think that category is maybe we've got the biggest spread of players, but I think you are going to get that when you're between sort of breakthrough/okay and then elite. I think we've got to keep elite. I think for a few, and yeah, certainly some of those are the top tier of great because they've had fantastic years.
Yeah, so before people come at us, they are in no particular order. Obviously, some will be at, if you go back and watch each individual player, some will be at a higher, we value them higher than some of the others, but in terms of great, they're all in great for now. And then finally, in elite, we only have 3 players, Lewis-Skelly, Dean Huijsen, and Lewis Hall. I'm pretty happy with those.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, you made the case for Lewis-Skelly, so there better not be anyone calling me a biased Arsenal fan for having him in the elite tier.
Mate, people definitely be calling me a terrible Liverpool fan, but Conor Bradley needs more minutes. I mean,
you wanted him in okay, mate. I think that's worse than needs more minutes.
Well, it's just visually, isn't it? To put Conor Bradley in the lowest possible tier in terms of Wonderkids, when you've got some players who are not as good as him, probably have had a better season based on, in terms of expectation to what they produced. I think it's valid, but I just don't see the perfect category for him apart from just good, which we don't have.
Yeah, maybe we should have him in his own category, the Conor Bradley category, which is a very frustrating one.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this time next year, who knows where he could be? He could be in elite as well with some of the others.
Oh, that's what I mean, 100%. I would not be surprised if he is, to be honest. He could be amazing.
Yeah, well, there we have it. That is our tier list. We have been ranking every Premier League club's best Wonder Kids from this season, how well they've done. Let us know. I'm sure you will if you agree or disagree with our picks. Do you agree, first of all, with the Wonder Kids that we chose? They had to be 21 or under at the beginning of the season, so before a ball was kicked. And we decided to go with these players for these categories. Let us know.